After last week's announcement, I thought it could be fun to talk a bit about my experience transitioning from self-publishing to traditional publishing. So here we go. So in terms of timelines, my editor at Orbit, Nivea Evans, first got in contact with me in about the middle of January last year, so 2019. Just a simple email to say, hey, I've read your books and I'm interested in talking to my colleagues about them. Could we have a copy to share around? I probably spent about 2 hours checking and rechecking that this was not somehow like a joke because I didn't even have an agent. I hadn't been looking for interest from traditional publishers. It was completely out of the blue. But the email address looked legit. And when I looked her up on Twitter, she was a real person. So I'm like, I guess she's real and she's interested in my books. So after I finished having a panic attack, I had to sit down and really think about, well, do I want to do this? I'd been really enjoying being a self-publisher. I had deliberately chosen to self-publish at the beginning of my career. I was starting to have some success as a self-publisher. Do I really want to give what I've been creating to a traditional publisher? But ultimately, I decided that it was worth it to at least see what they wanted and what they would offer and what they were interested in and where it would go. So I sent the book. And it is a bit scary because you're going to get silence for quite a long time after that. But at least during that period of silence, I was able to go, okay, I should probably get myself an agent because I am terrible, 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 terrible at fighting things, asking for money, understanding contracts. It's all just gibberish to me. So enter Julie Crisp, who has been an absolutely wonderful agent so far. And she was really able to give me good advice on where to go from there. And next came silence. There's a lot of silence in traditional publishing, lots of periods of nothing, followed by periods of stressful, frenetic activity. That just seems to be traditional publishing in a nutshell. So there was silence for quite a while after that. I had a book, the second book, We Lie With Death, was due out in March. And having not heard anything from Orbit, I thought, well, I've got to keep putting it out. This is my self-publishing career here. So I kept going with all the preparations for the launch for that, only to have 6 days before the release of that book to get an email from them saying, hey, could you please postpone the release of that so that we can keep everything on the table? No offer, no guarantee, just could you keep it all on the table? Okay. So I did. I had to pull the pre-orders and not be able to tell anybody and just kind of sit on it like nothing's happening. It's fine. Everything's fine. It's fine. And ultimately, it then sat around for quite a while, and it wasn't until April that I finally got an offer from them, which just happened out of the blue one day. Julie called me first thing in the morning and gave me the news that they wanted to buy 7 books. And I just had quite another panic attack about this. But, it was also really exciting. And I really thought that despite everything that had happened, I would be more torn, that I would really consider it for longer, that, I had been self-publishing for so long and I felt really strongly about self-publishing that it would take a lot to really shift me into traditional publishing. But it was the decision of a moment. It was, Orbit wants to buy 7 of your books. It was just, okay, good. Yep, you say yes. Julie, yes, I will do that. Yep. So far it had been a 3-month process from the first contact in January to the offer in April. And even though we started working pretty much straight away, I sent all my files in and would soon have edits back and, beginning the discussion process on how all of this was going to work. We didn't actually have a finalized contract until the end of June, I think it was, because it is really impressive how many tiny things need to go back and forth. And I had nothing to do with it. Julie was dealing with all of that, thankfully. But it was just the tiny negotiation process. Can take a long time. While we were waiting, it was really lovely being welcomed into the Orbit family, getting to know some of the people that I would be working with, my US editor, my UK editor, and getting used to the different way that this whole process works. Because as a self-publisher, you are the publisher. You make all of the final decisions. You decide on the artist, the cover art, exactly the way you're going to not only write the book, but produce the book, and even to some degree edit the book. Because although you have an editor, you make the final decisions. Your editor is only able to suggest ideas and directions. So the editorial process is really quite different, surprisingly, because in an editorial process, they're always trying to just improve the outcome of the novel. But when you're a self-publisher, your editor works for you, whereas when you're with a traditional publisher, you work for your editor. And this is obviously a generalization, but I feel like that slight difference allows a traditional editor to have a bit more confidence of ownership over a book, and therefore to push a little bit harder at things that a self-publisher, an editor working for a self-publisher, might tread a little bit more carefully around. I feel that that's very varying on the relationship that you have with your editor, but it's just something I've noticed in the way that my edits have been presented to me, as these are the things I would like to see, rather than maybe it's some things that you can consider maybe. And the actual editorial process itself is quite regimented in traditional publishing. I'd never really thought about it like that when I was self-publishing. It was just, I will do however many edits this book needs. But now it's like, okay, we have a structural edit, and then we do a line edit, and then it goes to a copy edit, and now we're doing a first page pass. And here are the dates that you will be getting them back, and here are the dates that we need them back from you. And it's, I really quite like it. I have to admit, I didn't think I would, that level of structure would tweak all of my I don't like being told what to do vibes. But it really works very well because it allows me to hyperstructure what I'm working on at any given moment. So it's actually really quite fun. So on a day-to-day basis, even though I'm writing the same books that I would have been writing as a self-publisher, now that I'm with a traditional publisher, I feel like everything is still really quite different, in that I no longer have to spend a chunk of every day doing the administrative work of being a self-publisher, buying ISBNs and checking on ads and sales and all of those kinds of things. I don't need to do that anymore. And it allows me to either put a little bit of extra time into the work, to do a bit more social media or like these videos. That I would otherwise not really have been able to do. Financially, it makes a big difference because now I get paid upfront for my books, rather than having to put in money upfront and spend money to build up sales through advertising and stuff to be able to reap the rewards of, getting the extra royalties from self-publishing, which I hadn't been able to do so far. So it's been quite a nice change not to have to worry so much about the amount of money that I am spending to produce the books. So cover production was another thing that I needed to get used to, because as a self-publisher, you get to decide everything from your artist to which sketch they go ahead with to who does the typography, everything. So now I get an email saying, do you have any ideas? I get another email that says, this is your artist, what do you think? This is the sketch that they've come up with that we think is the strongest. I don't see the other sketches, just the one that is the strongest. And here is your finished cover, what do you think? And I do feel like at any point along this road where I really hated something, there is space for me to say so, that they wouldn't put out something that I truly, truly didn't like. But at the same time, I do feel like the what do you think is a little bit of a courtesy question because really they know what they're doing and they want to go ahead and do what they believe is best for a book in terms of its marketing and its production because, they are the professionals. They know what sells. They talk to the people who sell the books. They know a lot better than I do what is going to work for a book cover. So ultimately, as much as I thought this would irk me, I'm really quite happy to leave this in the hands of the professionals. So the one surprising thing for me that hasn't changed at all is that I still suffer from the same levels of crippling self-doubt. I still go through phases where I think I can't do this. This book is terrible. Why did Orbit even think they wanted these books? They're just the worst. Or I stare at a blank page going, I don't know how to write. What do I do with this? I feel like this must just be a universal author or even a universal creative experience. That no matter where you sit on the spectrum, it is just something that we all have to deal with. So I thought there would be an extra kind of level of confidence that I would get, but it didn't manifest. So most of my experience so far with traditional publishing has been more on the editorial and the production side. I don't have too much to say yet about releasing a book or even writing a whole new book because I haven't done those things yet. But once I do, I'll probably do another video further down the line. So until then, if you have any questions about any of this, I'm happy to answer them if I can. That's another thing about traditional publishing. Sometimes, all the time, you have to keep secrets for a lot longer than you want to. But if I can answer your questions, I will. So feel free to put them in the comments and I'll get to them if I can. And that's it. I'll probably think of something else I wanted to say like 5 minutes after I turn this off. But right now I cannot think of anything. So I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye until next week.